Hey guys, I'm Samantha. Welcome to my channel, and I am here to talk about the books that I read for the month of August. When I had last recorded a wrap up, which is, I don't know why I say it like that, it was only just in July. I thought I had read as much as I could in a month, but I succeeded that plus more. Not by too much, but I ended up reading a total of 24 books for the month of August. Not too sure how exactly I managed that, but let me go over some quick details. And I realized that I think I skipped on doing the stats for July, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to go over August's stats. I have my spreadsheet pulled up over here. So for all of those 24 books, an approximate pages read was 4,885. Approximate hours listened, 23 and a half. Most of those were library books. I checked out about 29 library books. I obviously didn't get to all of them, but I did check out at least 29. One was a reread, one was a DNF, and I had started 2 series and 16 were diverse reads for me. The source, 2 audiobook, 8 ebooks, 13 physical, and I had one that was a mixture of both, like physical and audio. And format, 6 were graphic novel, 9 were mangas, and 9 were novels. Audience, 17 adult, 2 new adult, and 5 YA. And for genres, 1 crime, 2 dystopian, 8 contemporary, 5 fantasies, 2 historical, 1 literary fiction, 2 nonfiction, 2 sci-fi, and 1 retelling. And those are just a quick brief rundown of what my stats were for the month. Now I have my reading journal that has more details about each book that I have read, and I tried to also incorporate if I was reading them for a readathon, because for the month of August, that was the magical readathon. It's autumn equinox turn. So I was trying to read as much as I could, a lot of these books for that. I unfortunately didn't complete all the classes because my character being an overachiever wanted to do mini. I was just trying to read as much as I can for all the different prompts and then go from there, but I am still working through those classes. I made this readathon more of a year-long readathon for myself. But let's get into what I read for the month. First book is A Second Chance at Sarah by Neil Druckmann. I read this during the Witchathon Lammas round. It fit for getting me an O in spells and incantations, and completed that class for me for the Moon Warden apprenticeship that my character was going for. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed the artwork. The story was pretty dark, but overall I really enjoyed this. And I believe I read this on Library Pass through my local library. And it was obviously a graphic novel. 2, Saga Volume 10 by Brian K. Vaughan. I also read this during the Lammas round for Witchathon. It completed an O for Art of Illusion class, and it completed that class for Star Whisperer Apprentice. I gave it 4 stars. I thought the volume was pretty good, but it also felt more like filler than anything. And I did enjoy seeing how Hazel has grown since we last saw her after the devastation of the volume 9. I'm still interested in continuing with the series, but it's not like something that I'm completely wowed by. It's like I am intrigued enough to continue the series because of the plotline is really good. Book 3 is A Girl Called Echo, The Pemacia Wars by Katharina Vermenti. This was a buddy read that I had done with my sister for the Lammas round of Witchathon. This helped me get an O in alchemy. Gave it 3.5 stars. The artwork was stunning, and it's definitely one of those stories if you're looking for graphic novel that tells you more about Canadian history, especially with the natives and Canada's history. I definitely recommend this one. Book 4 is Way of the House Husband Volume 2 by Kuzuki Onu. I read this for Lama's round, completed a Q in alchemy for the herbology apprentice, gave it 4 stars. It was super funny. I highly recommend it. And book 5 is actually volume 3. This got me, it helped me summoning an imp. Also gave it 4 stars. It was a bit slower than volume 2, but overall I really did enjoy the 2 volumes, and I highly recommend it if you are looking for a slice of life type of manga that is no stakes. It's super dramatic, but in a funny way. I highly recommend it. Book 6, Lore Olympus Volume 3 by Rachel Smith. This got me an O in Conjuration and completed that for the Demonologist novice, and also completed 2 prompts for the Royal Readathon. Gave it 4 stars. I found it super sweet. I am really enjoying this webcomic. I am reading it by the volume bind up, but I am actually pretty tempted to start reading it on a webtoons so I can catch up. But I really did enjoy it. 7 is Bitch Planet Volume 2, President Bitch by Kelly Sue Donick. I read this for the Final Book Support Group Readathon. It helped me in summoning an imp for Magical Readathon. I gave it 3.5 stars. I had read the first volume of this. My sister had a copy just a couple of years ago, so the details in my brain was kind of foggy. It was one of those ones like I just thought it was all right. I didn't really think one way or another of it. I'd probably continue the series because I don't think there's very many volumes. I think there's only maybe 1 more volume in this series for me to read. So I'm going to check that out at a later date. Book 8 is actually one of my most anticipated releases for this year, and it was A Soul of Ash and Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Gave it 4.5 stars. The ending gave me goosebumps when I read this. I really loved it, even though it's just a retelling of book 1. But from the love interest point of view, I really did enjoy this. It helped me complete the alchemy for Archmage class to become a novice in that. It had completed 2 prompts for the Royal Readathon, and it helped me complete 3 prompts for the Final Book Support Group. 9 is A Girl Called Echo, Red River Resistance by Catherine Vermenti. This also got 3.5 stars. It was interesting. I just wish that this was a little bit longer, and I believe there's supposed to be a 3rd volume coming out later this year, sometime sometime next year. I'm not exactly too sure. That's just what I heard. I read this for 3 prompts for the Final Book Support Group, and it helped me get a Q in Conjuration for the Rift Architect novice. Book 10, My Hero Academia, Volume 2, Rage, You Damn Nerd by Kahi Huaakshi. I am butchering it, I apologize. Gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was alright. The rival character that is in the book is really starting to get annoying for me. I read this for 2 prompts for the Final Book Support Group, and it got me a O in Restoration, and it completed that class for me to get a Scribe Novice. Book 11 was The Fireman by Joe Hill. Gave it 3.5 stars. It was a bit slow to start with, but overall it was pretty decent. This was actually the first full-length Joe Hill novel that I read. I read the first volume of Lock and Key by him, but this was actually my first novel of his that I read, and I would recommend it. It's not something I would see myself rereading in the future, but I can definitely see how his writing is, and I may check out more of his writing in the future. Book 12 is My Hero Academia Volume 3, All Might, and I gave this also 3.5 stars. I read it for 3 prompts for the final book support group, and for Magical Readathon, it got me a Q in Restoration, and it helped me complete a class for the class for Moon Warden Apprentice and Herbology Apprentice, and now my character is now an Apprentice Herbologist. I'm going to try to complete as many classes I can between now and the spring equinox, and then that will determine if my character will continue like with the careers that I have them set up. But at least she is now a apprentice for a herbologist, which is good. Book 13 is My Hero Academia Volume 4, The Boy Born with Everything. This got 3.5 stars, completed an O in lore, and completed that class for Star Warden Apprentice. So far, I am still on the middle ground with My Hero Academia. I may enjoy it a little bit more as the anime form, but I'm going to give it at least another volume or 2 to really decide if it's something that I want to read, or it just might be one of those series that I just pick up from time to time whenever I am wanting to like read something on like the first day of the month when I usually do my graphic novel reads. It may be something like me picking up then. It's not something I am feeling like the dire need to actually complete at this point in time, but it's still a pretty interesting plot. Book 14, Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Gave this 3.5 stars. It completed an O in Demonology. I listened to this. This was the one audiobook I had listened to, and I actually found it really compelling, and I didn't feel like I really wanted to put it down. So the writing was really good. It's just I found the plot a little bit predictable, unfortunately, so that's why it kind of got a lower stars, and I didn't really find any of the characters likable, you know, like, or even relatable just to me. But and I didn't expect it to be set in the time period that it was set in as well. I thought it was going to be more of a contemporary like mystery, but it ended up not being that, which is all right. 15, I read Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. Gave this 3 stars. It gave me a Q in Spells and Incantations to complete for the Archmage Novice and Demonologist Novice. This is like pretty much the go-to guide for anybody who's wanting to get into Wicca. It's a book that I heard tons about and had been reluctant to get into because of it being older content, but there can be some merit in what older content can give you. You can just always take some of the notions and practices that are in older books, like witchcraft books, and apply it to your practice now. You don't have to do everything by the book that they say, but I definitely recommend it as something to look into to see how far the concept of witchcraft and Wicca practice has came. 16 is The Memory Prunellies by Yoko Ogawa. Gave this 3 stars. This was part of my tarot TBR that I had listened to. It got me an O in Astronomy. I really did enjoy this one as well. Even though it wasn't very long, it did seem like it dragged out a little bit. So unfortunately, it got a low rating because of that. But I can see myself reading stuff in the future by this author. Book 17, So We Meet Again by Suzanne Park. Gave this 3.5 stars. Read it for Tarot TBR, and it is a past NetGalley book, so I finally got a NetGalley book off my TBR. It got me a Q in lore for Scribe Novice. This is a high school classmates to lovers type of trope, with like an Asian and American representation in this, so I really did like that. And surprisingly, it was the first book that I actually read that the setting is in, part of the setting is in Nashville, which I don't tend to see a whole lot of books or read a whole lot of books that is set in Nashville. With me growing up in Tennessee, and I've been to Nashville for quite a few times for doctor's appointments, it was nice to see that as like represented in literature. So I would be interested in reading more from this author in the future and more in that type of setting. Book 18, I read volume 4 of The Way of the House Husband and gave that 4 stars. It completed D in spells and incantations to complete the class for a Riff Architect novice. Still really loving the series. I found it really hilarious. It's still kind of starting to go mid-range, but I laughed a lot in this volume, which got reason why I got 4 stars. Then I read volume 5 of The Way of the House Husband. Still 4 stars, got a 0 in Inscription. Don't really have much to say on that either. Still really enjoying the series. Book 20, A Man and His Cat, Volume 1 by Umi Sakari. This got 5 stars. It's the first 5 stars in a long time that I had. I read this to help me summon some imps for Magical Readathon. This is, as the title implies, about a elderly man who goes to a pet store and adopts a cat that has been passed over for many months, and is kind of at his last, kind of come to a realization that he may not get adopted until this elderly gentleman came and adopted him. And it's a super sweet and kind of heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. I highly recommend it, and it's such a good book. Then book 21, Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. This was the Reading by Candlelight pick, and I had it on my tarot TBR as well. Gave it 4 stars. It completed a prompt for a Royal Readathon. I thought it was pretty good, considering I don't read, or I don't seem to like a whole lot of romance books. They kind of are in the middle of the road for me a lot of the times. I did really enjoy the sciencey aspect of it, which I think is what really saved it from being a 3 stars, and the dynamic between the two, the main couple in this is definitely hilarious, and I just really enjoyed it. Then book 22 is Practical Magic, A Beginner's Guide to Crystals, Horoscopes, Psychics, and Spells by Nikki Vandekar. This was a So Moted B pick and a Tarot TBR pick and a reread for me. Got 5 stars, and me and Alicia have already spoken about our thoughts about this book. I will try to remember to link it somewhere on this video, but if not, you can always find it on my channel. The discussion for Love Theoretically is actually supposed to be the weekend that I am recording this now, on September 16th. So that will be on Katie's with Kit Kats Can Reads channel. So I'm excited for that. But me and Alicia had a really good discussion about each of the sections that we liked about, or we went actually over each chapter and talked about what we liked in each chapter and what we got out of it and all that, and it was really nice. Then book 23, it was the only DNF that I had for this month, and that is Black Girl, White Girl by Patricia Moyes. This was on my TBR for Tarot TBR. I just couldn't get into it. I think the writing is just a little too dated for me, and it was a really politic heavy as well, which when I'm reading a book, I don't mind a whole lot of politics if it is presented like at least by the 3rd or 4th chapter, not at the 1st chapter. It's like immediately you are launched into this whole political strife that is happening, that the main characters are having to deal with, and I just got confused. And it also doesn't help, I think this is kind of later in the series, but under my impression, I thought you could go into this series without having read previous ones, because I thought they kind of would act as standalones, but that wasn't the case with this. And I believe the book was published in the 80s, so it's just not my cup of tea. I have any books I'm unhauling, I'm listing on Pango Books, just so it gives people other people chances to read it. If I don't end up selling it, I'm just going to donate it to the library and see if it can find a good home that way. But yeah, it's just not my cup of tea. And the very last book was A Man and His Cat, Volume 2. Gave this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It helped me summon an imp for Magical Readathon. As much as I loved the first one, unfortunately, the second one didn't quite live up to that expectation, but it was nice to see more of the backstory of the elderly gentleman and the reason why he wanted to adopt the cat to begin with, and it's still super sweet. But yeah, those are the 24 books for the month of August. I apologize if you guys were wanting more synopsis and more information about these books, but with as many books as there is for the month, I'm not about to sit here for an hour rambling about these. But I will let you guys know my thoughts about Love Theoretically over on Katie's channel when we do our live show there. You can also hear mine and Alicia's thoughts about Practical Magic. And yeah, and I will try to remember to leave a link down below for those two. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to keep up to date with any future videos I have coming out, and I will see you guys in the next one.